What's up, friends? It's Ryan, the Friendly Designer, and welcome to another episode of our Friendly Podcast. This podcast is all about us exploring friendliness so that we can continue to develop our expertise at building a friendlier future. Today, we're talking with Aaron the Caterpillar, and more importantly, Gary Ware, who is my buddy that likes to play. Gary's a strategic play consultant. That's a pretty cool title right there. And author of Playful Rebellion. You're crushing the title game.
Thank you.
And I'm super excited and grateful to learn a little bit about friendliness and a lot about play from Gary this afternoon. Gary.
Hey, bring it in, dude.
So good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, so my first question for you, and we can talk about it with Aaron. I'm gonna start to, pull her apart a little bit, mix it up. What is friendliness to you?
Friendliness, when I really think about friendliness, it's a vibe. It's an attitude.
Vibe.
It's all about, bringing your sort of kindness, politeness. There's a lot of empathy. You're inclusive. Friendliness is very inclusive. And it's very closely related to play.
Yeah.
I feel like it could be like, one could be the gateway to the other.
Yeah.
It depends on how you look at it.
Well, I'm happy you brought that up because, we're all about exploring how we can build a friendlier future, right?
Yeah.
And I think the best vehicle to do so is play. When we've brought people on this podcast, I think the most common denominator in responding to that question of what is friendliness is openness and trust. And play is like the cheat code of getting there as fast as you can, right?
Oh, of course.
So really, I want to just pick your brain and talk to you about play, how you developed an interest after the age of 5 of liking play, how you've brought that into a professional career, how you get adults in corporate environments to play. So we'll get into all of that, but can you share a little bit about why does Gary like to play? How did that come into play? Oh.
If you ask my mom, she would say I've been playful from the moment I can communicate, I can interact.
Got it.
Growing up, I've always been that curious kid that like, oh, how does this work? How does this work? I would take things apart, put things back together the best I could. I was the goofball that loved to make people smile, loved to make people laugh. I went to a lot of different schools. My dad was in the Navy, and as a kid, what's it all about? Like, it's not about like, the studies, this, that, and the other. Like when you're like under middle school, it's all about like, all right, who do I hang out with?
Yep.
Who are my friends? So I got very good at sort of connecting with folks. And so playfulness had been in my DNA from the beginning. And we'll probably get into this as I got older and then into like professionalness, adulting, I lost it.
It disappeared.
It disappeared.
It's not unique to you.
No. I know, right?
Sadly so.
Yeah, right? We can relate.
All right, so play disappears, and it was such a fundamental feature of a younger Gary.
Yes.
What is the moment, or what is the collection of moments that all of a sudden bring that back to the forefront of your mind? And you're like, hey, there's a lot of value for adults to be playing. I need it personally, and I want to share this with others.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, and I bet you anyone watching this can relate, growing up, my dad said this a lot. Hey, Gary, I love that you're playful. I love that you want to play. There's a time and place for it.
Sure.
You'll have plenty of time to play once you finish your work. And so that was great in structured environments like, school, because I came home, schoolwork, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was motivated by wanting to play. And then I got my work done. When I became an adult, that voice was still in my head of like, you got to finish your work. And so my definition, like my sort of understanding of what play was very shallow. Was something that kids did. It was very like sort of juvenile, goofing off and stuff like that. And so the big thing is I've always wanted to play. I talk about like when I go into like when I start every sort of work venture or something like that, it's very playful, it's very curious, but then it quickly shifts to the proving ground. I talk about this in my book, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But
no spoilers.
Yeah, but it was like one of these things. Well, as adults, I thought we weren't allowed to play. More importantly, we couldn't play till our work is done. And if you look at your to-do list, it's probably longer than a CVS receipt.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. And so you never will play. And so for me, that catalyst that brought me back to the playground was an improv class.
Oh, okay. So you got into some improv.
Yeah.
Let's mix it up. Let's pull out some other pieces.
Yeah. Let's
Timber!
do it.
I'm gonna stack it up this way. Lots of different configurations. Really, we need the sideways rocking chairs though. That's what the people need, it's what the people want. Hooah. Nice bucket. Ooh, I told you we'd have fun on this podcast.
Oh, heck yeah.
All right, so next question for you.
Bring it.
You get to a place where you're like, all right, we need adults to play. You get into improv, you're kind of learning that that might be a nice vehicle or tool to kind of help with that. What have been the biggest struggles to getting adults to play? Because you're working in corporate environments,
Yes, I am.
team building exercises, executive leadership coaching, right?
Yep.
What have been your main obstacles and hurdles to getting people to play? And what have been, you think, the most valuable tools? What's your secret sauce?
Yeah.
On how you actually get these, corporate people to get silly?
So it's not a secret sauce. Matter of fact, yes, most people don't know about this. So I would gladly tell as many people that want to listen.
Sure.
The biggest barrier to play is the understanding of what play is. As I mentioned before, I thought play was just what kids do. It's very juvenile. It's it's goofing off.
Yeah.
However, the essence of play is doing something that brings you joy, that you just do just for the sake of doing it. And you can apply that to so many different things.
Yeah.
Your work can be play.
Sure.
As long you go willingly, and you get into a state of flow. So this is where, as adults, we confuse the thing. Like, we know what flow is, and we want to get into flow.
Yeah.
Think about any game that you played, and when you really played, like not like fake playing, like when you're just so immersed in this experience that like you lose track of time.
Yeah.
That is essentially flow, because you're being challenged just enough. You're not getting bored. Time is flying by like that, and it's pleasurable. That can be so many different things. It's the same as flow. So the first thing is helping adults realize that play is more than just what kids do.
Yep. So there's education.
Education first.
Expanding people's understanding of what play can be to them.
Yeah, changing their perspective. However, that alone is not enough, because we have decades and decades of conditioning that has conditioned us to be like, nope, we're not supposed to do this. So,
got it. So it's like, all right, now you're telling me that play is actually not just for my 8-year-old, but it's a valuable thing for me to experience as an adult. Let's say I buy it. Well, I don't know how to do that anymore, because maybe it's been 3 decades since I last kind of really engaged in that.
You're atrophied, and your body's going to resist it because of a thing called homeostasis. To give you an example of what homeostasis is, and I invite anyone who's watching this to play along, cross your arms, just normal. Notice what hand's on top and what hand's on bottom. Mm-hmm. Now, I invite you to cross it the opposite way. So the opposite hand's on top.
Switch sides?
Yeah. How's that feel?
Fun.
Well, of course, you're the friendly guy. You're the fun guy. But like, does your body like want to go back to like?
Yeah, it's just a little. It's like, I don't normally do this.
Exactly. That's what play is. Like, especially for adults. I invite them in. They're gonna feel like a little resistant. Like,
yeah,
this doesn't feel normal, and you immediately want to go back to what is normal to you. We're atrophied from it, and so the next thing of getting adults to play is one, to invite them to.
Yep.
Like, I give them free permission to play or not play.
So education, then permission, / invitation.
Yeah.
And then, so what are some of the programming or tools? Obviously, our approach is we use like spatial design a lot of the time, right? So we have this giant sculpture that we decided to name Aaron after our friend Aaron. And it's like, hey, go crazy. We're gonna play cornhole games, or we're gonna stack up some Legos, whatever it might be. I'm super curious. How is it you actually get adults to play, especially because you're often doing this at a corporate office environment, which is just screaming don't play.
Exactly. So after I educate, change perspective, give the invitation, now we have to ease into it because you're going to be met with resistance. I need it to be so seemingly simple that when you do it, your brain is not going to be like, stop.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, oh, that's easy.
Baby steps.
It's exactly baby steps. And on top of that, I'm taking a page out of every single app designer. If you think of any app that you've engaged with, what do? They invite you in. They make it so simple. Like, hey, do this one thing.
Yeah.
And then you do that one thing. What do? Great job.
Yeah.
You put in a name.
Yeah.
Guess what? Do this one thing. And it's interesting because as when we were kids, we celebrated everything.
Yeah.
You took a step, yes.
Lots of positive reinforcement.
Like lots of positive reinforcement. But as adults, we take the celebration and we delay it to the epic wins.
Oh, that's actually really interesting. I haven't thought about it like this. One of my favorite sayings from my dad is, there's enough things that go wrong in life. Don't waste opportunities to celebrate, essentially.
Wise man.
And he's sometimes, no, definitely, very, very grateful for his wisdom. And I hadn't thought about that in regards to trying to change certain behaviors for well-being, right? But if you're trying to get people to play and it's not their homeostasis, that's not what they've been doing recently, I think some people can feel self-conscious about it, like, because guess what, you are looking stupid.
You are.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And I let people know.
I'm rocking in a sideways rocking chair right now, wearing a shirt that one of our Friendly Futures partners, Yoshi, made that says pineapple on pizza or no. Which, by the way, I think yes. Do you have a?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, okay, great.
I'm not afraid.
I don't understand why people would be not including pineapple. It's very.
Pineapple on pizza is play.
A nice tangent. But yeah, I think celebrating that, like, hey, like good job, like that's great. You do look awkward right now. This is silly, but this is a nice first step, and you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful mechanism to encourage more people to play.
Yeah, and it's supported by science and our biology. So what's happening? Two things are happening. One, we're getting a boost of dopamine.
Yeah.
Like, yay, celebration. That is the neurochemical in our brain that is going to make us feel good and signal to us that we're on the right track.
Got it.
Two, when there's a group of folks happening and you do these silly actions and you look silly and no one makes fun of you, you are going to get serotonin and oxytocin. Those are the neurochemicals that make you trust the other person that you're with and feel like you belong.
Yeah.
Because it will be a different story if, like, all right, cool, let's all play. And then, Ryan gets up, all right, and Ryan does this thing, and people are like making fun of you. Like, that is not going to work.
That's not going to work out. That's not.
We can laugh. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's lots of laughter.
Sure.
And the brain knows the difference between like laughing with you and laughing at you. And if we're just laughing because this is so silly and we're all looking silly, like, all right, great, more dopamine, more endorphins, all these things. I call it dose. Yeah. We all need that dose. But that's going to be those easy steps that you apply that. And then over time, people would, they're like, wow, this feels good. So what usually happens is people come, like, oh, we have this team building thing, and it feels forced. You will do this.
Yeah, like come do this like team building, and you're like,
another thing.
Like, great.
Great, right? And then you're forced to do it. Like, you will do it.
We're playing? Great.
Yeah, right? And then there's
I want to look stupid in front of my coworkers right now. That sounds fun.
Right? There's no invitation. There's no intention to support everyone, make everyone feel comfortable, create psychological safety. And then, there's none of that. And it appeals to maybe a small subset of the community, but then the other people feel like outsiders, like, man, they're all having fun, but like, no, not me. And don't get me wrong, like, I met, like, when I work with these companies, it's a wide, diverse subset of folks. And sometimes in the beginning there is resistance, and I acknowledge that. I'm like, hey, look, this is something that most people, if you feel uncomfortable, it's okay.
Yeah.
We all feel uncomfortable. And again, I come with care and compassion. I am friendly.
Nice.
And the whole thing of having empathy and letting people know, hey, it's okay, like, do what you think you can do.
And then you find it pretty successful in getting the office to come together and play, even those that were originally hesitant.
Yeah, because it's contagious. Because once you get in, and again, it's like me when I took that improv class, I was so resistant at first. I was so scared. Again, it was just the unknown. We have this uncertainty bias, like when things are uncertain, like we start to get that fight, flight, or freeze, and this is our like protection mechanism. Like if we didn't have that, like we would have been extinct centuries ago. However, it doesn't necessarily serve us the way that it used to do. And so we have to acknowledge that it is a thing. We can't not.
I love the approach. So I guess just to break it down, there's education, there's the invitation,
Yes.
there's the celebration,
Yes.
and then that kind of that just creates an environment where now everyone can come and can play.
Repeat. Keep going.
That's amazing. Okay, so I want to bring this back from play into friendliness, right? So we often ask people what they like about friendly features. So I want to know, one, what is it? Because we've hit it off, right?
Yeah.
I was introduced to Gary. I was talking to a lovely woman named Jenna that works at the
Jenna.
La Jolla Playhouse. Hi, Jenna. And we were having our work exhibited there, and she's like, "Oh my God, do you know Gary? Gary likes to play." I was like, "I want to meet Gary. I don't know him yet." So there's a lot of synergy. But what is it that you like about friendly features, and what are some things that you think design would be helpful for in creating environments where adults are, they feel more comfortable to play?
One, what I love about it, it's approachable. Everything seems very intuitive. And I talk about this in my book, the difference between childish and childlike. Childish is being selfish and temper tantrums and all the things that we don't want in adults. But sometimes there are adults, don't get me wrong, that have that. But childlike is the curiosity, the wonder, the imagination. All of those things are essential if we want to stay here and stay on this planet and thrive. And what I love about your work, it gets people curious, like, ooh, what can this do?
Yeah.
And it invites people in. And before they know it, they're playing.
I love that. No, I'm really interested in applying kind of some aspects of your methodology, because this does sometimes require education, right? Some people see it and they get it. Kids, God knows they get it. Some adults see it and they get it. Some adults freeze, right? So you need that education/invitation. And I think the celebration too. And then once people start playing, they just get it. And then they're playing, they're friendly. And it blows my mind sometimes when I see like person A is hanging out with person B and they've been chatting for 15 minutes. In what world would they be able to even talk about something for that long? But no, they're playing and having fun, in large part propelled by some of these designs or programming. And it's like, wow, they became friends. And it's so exciting for me to see. So I think play is such a powerful tool. It loops into friendliness. And I really appreciate you taking the time and educating me and our audience, and taking the next step forward in our pursuit of a friendlier future.
And if you don't mind me saying this, like, I invite anyone watching this, if you're curious, like, oh wow, this seems interesting. What is a baby step? What is a baby step? And it could be as simple as this. What is something that you use and you can find an unconventional way of using it? Because that's what I love about this stuff, is like, all right, look, this is like a weird shape, but guess what? We made a rocking chair out of it. Like, what is it for you? And again, it could just be something simple, or maybe, if you're really like, oh, I don't know, like, what if you just imagined that you were a tourist in your city?
I love this exercise. It gives you that childlike wonder. You're exploring, you're curious about what's going on. The chances of you making a new friend skyrocket, because you're no longer closed off. You're open. So I like the actionable item for people to take away from this. And I look forward to playing with you sometime soon. My man, Gary. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well.